Hello, everyone. Welcome to the webinar on intelligent process automation in retail by Excella. Before I start, I quickly wanted to, I hope everybody has done the audio test and can hear me properly. If any of you are facing any issues, please put a remark on the question side and I will surely revert to you. Just a second. I think Chaitanya Babu is not anything. Is everybody else able to hear me? Okay, let me continue, and I assume that everybody is able to listen to me. If you have, hello, can you hear me? Okay, so as we've done the audio test, I would like to start. If you have, once you've done the audio testing, if you have any questions, you can send it to me on the Q&A session for via the chat part. The section is the question section, which you can see as a question mark on your screen. The recording of the webinar would be shared with all the attendees and the people who had registered for this webinar. So that's broadly it. I'll go back to my beginning screen. I just wanted to introduce myself. My name is Samarjeet Singh. I'm referred as Samar. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Excella. I've spent close to nearly 20 years in e-retail as I speak today. And my first stint was with a company called Taj Online, which we sold to Star TV. Then I became part of a team called Bazi. We exited that business to eBay, and I left that business to start Excella around in 2007. So it's been a 13-year journey where we built an Excella from a single-person team to a 1,000-people team today. So welcome. Apart from, before I start this session, I also wanted to potentially put across my wishes and my prayers to saying I hope everybody in the families of people who are attending the webinar are safe and healthy and fine, and I hope they stay that way. This is once in a lifetime pandemic, and I think staying home and staying safe is the only way we will navigate through this, and I hope that this is the same for you and your families. The Excella family is very safe. We all are working from home, and with God's grace, there's nobody who's been affected by the pandemic as yet, and we hope to. I hope that it remains the same. Now I get back to the agenda. The aim of this webinar is to discuss aspects of intelligent processes automation within retail itself. Our discussion will be focused solely on RPA, which is the process automation within retail. though the applications of RPA or process automation extend across industries, we will keep our focus only on retail, and our audience is also predominantly interested in that aspect. I think we've already done this. A broad agenda. We'll start by listing down the challenges which we have, uh, which we think are the challenges being faced by the retail and the CPG community and the e-retail community today in consumer product businesses, and can we leverage intelligent automation to overcome those challenges. What does intelligent process automation entail? So what is the scope of it? And then we'll get into the depth of understanding RPA as to what it can do for businesses. And then once we've understood what it can do for retail and for respective businesses and use cases, we'll get into how should enterprise take this automation journey. What does it take? How do you decide whether you should take this journey or not? And how can Xula help you by if you decide to take this journey, or even if you look for any other vendor partner, how do you go about doing it? So critical challenges which need to be managed today. I think especially with COVID-19 and generally economy slowing down across the globe, I think the world has been pushed into an extremely uncharted territory which we do not know about. Uh, so, and COVID-19 has ensured that we have supply side issues, we have demand side issues, and I think we'll have structural market side issues which we will also face, which has led to a lot of businesses being on hold, shortage of manpower, lot of productivity issues, a lot of pure CPG businesses do not come from the domain of the IT or the tech side of the world, which is used to work from home. So it's a first stint of a lot of those businesses to ensure productivity out of home, and a lot of other processes, tasks, mundane tasks, and there's a massive backlog which we are hearing from our customers and our partners that which is happening. If you only look at keep the focus on customers, you'll say that a lot of service levels are getting missed, a lot of turnaround time are getting impacted, and finally all this has an impact on business revenues. There is pressure on margin, there is pressure on cost. So that's broadly the world which we are seeing today. So moving on, I think the businesses need to resolve these immediate challenge, and I think reimagine the new normal is something which we think is the way things need to be tackled. Crisis can be sort of a catalyst for change, and I would say that this has become like a forced catalyst for people to transition towards more automation, because firstly, I think that's the need of the hour, as well as I think on a long-term basis, that's the best thing for the business. Automate mundane rule-based tasks, achieve cost, time, and quality efficiency. And I think de-risk from dependencies, though we have written as human dependency, but how do you find different ways to de-risk your business, especially when you're servicing your customers? And finally, achieve business stability in long run. So what does intelligent process automation entail? I think I will read it and also try to explain it. It's a set of business process improvement and next generation tool that assist in removing repetitive, replicable, and routine tasks. That's what intelligent process automation means to us, and generally is the definition around it. So, intelligent process automation covers below three different technologies which can potentially help us achieve it. Robotic process automation, which is fundamentally a software automation tool that automates routine tasks, is the area of robotic process automation. Today's presentation would more focus on this, though we just wanted to broadly introduce the gamut of technologies around it. And the second part of process automation also involves areas like machine learning. Machine learning is where we can use data uh, through supervised and unsupervised learning algorithms, and then use that for decision making, building decision making algorithms, and get automation interventions into processes where human decision making was also involved, and that could be automated using machine learning. And the last one is more the cognitive part, which is classically how can we replicate the cognitive thinking which human beings have, which is a contextual understanding of subjects which machines have been lacking in the past. So which is machine learning plus a whole language processing and natural language generation to create like a virtual workforce kind of situation. So all three can actually help us do a lot of intelligent automation. Though for today's seminar, as I said, we'll focus on the robotic process automation part. Moving on, let's get dig a little deeper into uh, get deeper into understanding what is robotic process automation. I was just checking for any questions. There is none. I hope everybody has sorted on the sound side of it, and I take that assumption. Uh, so here we move ahead. A robotic process automation is like, think of a software bot as a person on your team, which takes a repetitive rule-based task, maps out a business process, and assigns or creates a bot to manage it. So this is broadly what is robotic process automation, which fundamentally replicates human execution of repetitive processes using different applications. It's like a virtual workforce by business operations team, and it interacts with any applications or system in a non-invasive techniques. So technology has always been blamed in the past to say that it pushes the workflow, or it pushes customer experience to fit the limitations of the technology. In this case, we are saying it's the other way around. We are trying to replicate exactly what the business processes in as non-invasive possible way as possible. There are different types of automation which could be achieved. One is attended automations, where robots and employees work together on a semi-automated process. So we have automation, and we also have people on top of it to deliver let's say a half automated, a half attended kind of a solution. I'm just using half as an example. And unattended automation is where a robot can handle that entire process without any kind of intervention, and with exact accuracy which is expected. And the third one is robotic workforce supervision, which is fundamentally whatever managerial supervision or lead supervisions which we create in a workflow or a process is majorly replaced by a robotic workflow supervision, which are fundamentally dashboard displays, uh, which creates robot queues and workflow statuses, so that the task at a supervision level is seriously minimized or has a serious visibility on that part of it. And then an automated alert systems for any kind of operations breaches. So this is fundamentally, this is how we are thought of explaining robotic process automation uh, with all the facets of it. Moving on, why is RPA useful? I think broadly we can say it in two ways. First, what it allows is that it allows your managerial leadership talent to focus more on critical functions that require decision making and human intelligence rather than on repetitive processes. If we have to go by the way we've explained in the slide, it also ensures quality because it increases quality by avoiding human errors. It ensures 24/7 operations, especially in the context of COVID, as well as shopping or consumption becoming a 24-hour phenomenon. We will see the future of retail, the future of consumption is going to be more 24/7 driven, and automation and fundamentally is taking us in that direction. Agility, it increases in capacity and agility of processes is clearly achieved by potentially moving in the direction of automation. Very important in these times On a lot of processes, we can get our cost down by 30 to 40%, especially where we have scale in processes and they are repeatable. Scalability, I don't know, especially very relevant in the retail scenario where 40% of the sales, annual sales are all focused in one season or in one festival or one shopping structure. So this could be an extremely valuable tool to potentially achieve scalability at very short notices. Land and expand, which is a very agile way of saying that start with a small process and then keep on adding processes in terms of automation techniques using automation systems. And the point I think I did highlight on the slide before, saying no changes required to the underlying BPM process, business process remains the same. You just pick up the process, and if it's automatable, you automate it. We thought we should also give it a color of how the whole situation looks across industries. So if you'll see on the x-axis, we put in different functions. F&A is finance and accounting, accounts receivables, payable, general ledger, procurement, invoice processing, human resources, contact center, which is customer service. And on the y-axis, we put in industries: banking, insurance, manufacturing, retail, and CPG, which is what we are focusing on. And what we are trying to see is the potential of RPA. A dull color is a low and a potential high color. Darkish maroon is a more higher potential for an RPA. So we'll see that within finance and accounting, you can see there is a far higher potential of potentially automating using robotic process automation, which is accounts payable, general ledger, and many more processes. Even within customer service, we have a far higher chance. Whereas if you look at the whole payroll hiring, where there is more reason to be more cognitive about it, there is a lesser potential on the process automation side of it. So this is one way to look at how would you look at your various business functions and across industries and choose those processes. So within retail and CPGs, let's say sales analysis, in-store planning, trade promotion could be some very interesting use cases for robotic process automation. So moving ahead, here are multiple use cases which we have looked at and seen that these could be interesting areas for process automation. For example, things like inventory management, demand and supply planning. These are interesting areas. Merchandising, call center, analytics, returns processing is an area where we have seen a lot of chances for automation on these areas. So if I have to take specific cases, I just wanted to refer to my notes. So take an example on supply chain. So I would say inventory invoice and contract management is an area which is highly applicable from a robotic process automation perspective. Freight management. In fact, one of the use cases we will highlight is the invoicing process of a freight management exercise as we move ahead in the presentation. Supply and demand planning, returns processing is an area which can do. One area which trade promotions. If you see, trade promotions is an extremely manual area today within the CPG businesses or retail businesses. But you can easily and quickly track and analyze a lot of promotions and their performance if you can automate a lot of those processes. On the sales side, I have seen that with real-time insights, having retail and suppliers carry out a lot of effective analysis to maximize their sales opportunities. And that's an interesting area which it could be done. In-store planning is an area we've seen could have a lot of interesting use cases. I think it gives retailers access to more accurate information on store-by-store basis if we can automate a lot of those areas. These are broader examples. We didn't want to get deeper into it. We thought we'll take two use cases and quickly put an example so that we understand in little depth as to how are those cases, how RPA was applied in two of these cases. So here is a use case one. The problem statement was let's say invoice from a vendor is received in an email as a PDF to be read and the values to be put into a system from a payment perspective. So fundamentally, robot makes the document available at the beginning of the process. Then using intelligent automation platform and OCR tools, you are able to extract all the relevant information about the vendor and the invoice and the reason of the invoices, and you extract that data and perform data entry into a required ERP or any kind of invoicing or a billing or a vendor management system. So this was an interesting use case which we looked at. What it ensures is a complete error-free entry, a far faster turnaround times, and 20 to 30% cost saving on manual entries, especially if you have scale. Here is a use case too. Let me look. I was just checking for any questions. Thank you. There are no questions as yet, so I'll move ahead. This is like how to streamline supplier management operations. The problem statement was once you're onboarding a seller as a retailer or as a marketplace, the whole supplier KYC, we calling it, or know your supplier kind of a situation, and then validating all the document for new supplier and registration within your as a retailer or as a marketplace. So fundamentally, bot downloads the Excel and zip folders of PDFs from an email which has been sent by a vendor or a supplier. It reads the data from Excel and unzips the PDFs into a folder. From there, it goes straight to a supplier portal where it logins into a supplier management portal, searches for supplier basis supplier ID, it matches it, and creates a new supplier and uploads the relevant PDF documents into it. It edits and updates supplier details and uploads the relevant PDFs. Post doing that, it can schedule notifications, report the missing data, and ensure that what have been successful entries and what have been unsuccessful entries, and can send notification all in an automated fashion back to the seller to send the missing pieces of the information. And then finally create a system by which supplier onboarding, supplier registration, and validation is automated to a maximum possible extent. So that's an interesting second use case we worked on, so we thought we'll share with you. Moving from these use cases, the robots actually eliminated the whole human intervention in this process. It increased speed and accuracy in the entire process, and there was no latency on supplier onboarding, which is actually, if you will see for a marketplace or a retailer, if you can remove latency by 4 or 5 days, the amount of revenue uptake for a very large retailer can be extremely high. So moving on, so if in this case, if an enterprise needs to take an automation journey, how should they think about it? So we thought let's help you think through a framework by which you can identify these opportunities within your organization. So here is an example. So this is a use case for identification and scoring as to what. Here the process criteria is fundamentally impact or the benefit of a RPA implementation. So let's see the materiality, which is the scope of impact. So processes which have high number of FTEs, which is number of people employed in that process. There is a high frequency on a daily or hourly basis, which this process requires. And there's a large volume also which is happening there. Could be the way this could be a very high candidate for a RPA implementation. So if you'll see, it's a very high score of +10 if these are the matching criteria. Similarly, if you'll see from an impact perspective, suitability is another area. Whether the business process rules can be seriously automated, operations of one or more such systems which requires manual intervention, the judgment work on variable tasks and or unstructured data are limited or not so limited. So you still have a decently high score for an RPA implementation. Here you see that where there's a very high regulatory risk in whenever you're doing an automation, you will see a lower score for such a process. Similarly, on a financial automation of process would drive additional revenue and grow business volumes. I think it's a higher case for a potential automation from a KPI and metrics driven basis. Let's use another use case for identifying and scoring, which is process. Here the process criteria is complexity, which fundamentally is cost to achieve such a RPA implementation. So let's look at process complexity. So if the tasks that are uniformly executed regardless of people, uh, which you used to do to perform it, it's a stable process, doesn't change too much. Uh, or the third case could be process has numerous variations or rules uh, which require human judgment. So if the complexity is not too high as the first 2 points, the score would have been higher. But if the score, if there are a lot of judgment, you will say that, oh, this is a use case which has a lower scale for lower score for process automation. Similarly, if there are multiple regions, uh, I think another, now you can see a little bit of negative cases. So, for example, there is a, if the data privacy office requirements can sometimes look at some process surely not being RPA'd in any possible way. There could be a lot of technical complexities which require to execute this process. And there could be organizational complexities, multiple layers of organization approval system, a very matrix driven structure of any approval. Again, the score could be negative. So if you look at this is a potential way, and if you plot it, let's say on a scorecard, so you will see that on the x-axis, if the processes are repetitive, they are rule based, they have structured input, they have a structured output, the volume is high, the volume variability is potentially low, off hours processing is high, they're not very highly error prone, and there's not too much of duplication of data. The process stability is very high and system stability is very high. And then if you plot it across multiple processes, you will see accessing sales data and creating reports potentially will have a very, very high score and will be the first thing you should potentially pick up within your organization. And similarly, if you will see, take a use case like addressing customer email queries, you will see things like structured input and structured output. The scores are very, very low. Similarly, off hours processing, error prone, error prone, they're highly error prone. You will see the scores are low, and obviously you will take up those cases in the end. So you'll potentially pick up accessing sales data and creating reports as the first thing, returns and exchange approvals as the second thing, tracking and updating shipping status could be the third thing, and so on. So we're saying that I think this is kind of a company or a consultant which has dealt through these use cases can easily do this kind of a structure for you and help you decide as to how to move forward. While you're doing an RPA implementation, you need to also think through what kind of platform you will use because it has multiple selection criteria. So for example, what is the ease of implementation cost? There could be significant difference on a lot of platforms which are far more expensive than a lot of platforms which could be as it could be free and even open sourceable, but it will have its own set of limitations. Security, availability of implementation support resources, which is talent and capability, flexible functionality on the robot, and then performance analysis capabilities. Because once you have implemented such a thing, you want to measure whether the impact is as planned or not. Artificial intelligence capabilities, we spoke about it right at the beginning, so that once you're taking the capability to the next level, whether these capabilities exist. And very since this is an upcoming area, you look for case studies and references within your industry, because those use cases would be more or less addressed if this kind of a tool has already addressed those issues. So on the right hand side, if you'll see the whole RPA vendor landscape, uh, on the top, maybe top 30% of the market share is with these three platforms, which is Automation Anywhere, Blue Prism, and UiPath. And there are multiple other platforms which could be used depending upon what is your criteria for choosing a platform. Once you've chosen a platform, we thought we'll also give you a perspective on how what are the steps you need to do and what does the process look like. So we've been approaching this process like this. So first is that you need to scope it. So basically assess candidate processes for rapid piloting within a development environment. So choose business areas where there are a larger number of processes still manually handled. Identify rule-based processes with digital triggers, volumes. Maybe example could be potentially would release 3 full-time equivalent resources, could be one way to look at it. Establish leadership and stakeholder engagement so that there would be a sponsor for such a process. Then start mapping. Map the process to the keynote level. For example, on activities, business decision rules, applications, what is the input, what is the output, variation expect and exceptions per se. You'll get sign-offs by business owners and establish baselines and agree performance targets once you're mapping it. And basically select the target designs and RPA setup to minimize handovers between people and pods. And finally, get down to the journey of once you've agreed on a scope and a map on automation, you've chosen a tool. We normally prefer agile development and ongoing testing on this issue as a system to develop these kind of small prototypes and then quickly deliver them. And finally, testing and handover. So that's how we look at pilot and the whole proof of concept use cases. And finally, you look at an ROI estimation of why would such a process be, such automation be valuable to you. If there has to be higher focus on strategic activities, you need better control and operational visibility, you need higher efficiency, you need higher accuracy, and also cost reduction, then I think we are making a very good case for process automation. So I think if I were to summarize this, it's like doing more with less is the main driver for RPA. In a lot of cases, it may not only be the cost, which is the reason for automation, but wherever we have scale, we have seen that there are significant cost benefits. How can just one slide on how potentially Ixula can help you. So if you'll see on the y-axis, we have seen organization RPA maturity level. So if you look at organizations starting an RPA journey, if you're in a lower end of an organization on a maturity scale, you initially need consulting. You need somebody to help you do an opportunity assessment and do a proof of concept with you. But if you've already thought through this and you are already much more evolved on the maturity side, then you can directly work with any partner, and we can also work to directly design the bot architecture and development support and manage RPA as a managed services and support, and help you build a RPA center of excellence for many more processes and keep on achieving those goals one by one. So this is broadly the way we look at doing it. Just to summarize, if you have, and if this rings a bell, you can write to us at marketing@ixula.com, and our team can get on a call and help you think through this entire journey. Broadly, this is what I had to say. If there are any set of questions, I'll be more than happy to answer them. You can ask those questions on the questions tab, and I'll answer it on the presentation itself. I can actually see there are questions. So here's a question which is saying, can there be a is it only good for is RPA only relevant for larger companies versus smaller companies? I think we should not look at that as a larger versus smaller. We should look at we should go back to the framework saying, is it a repeatable process? Is it measurable? Second, is there a scale and volume, and it can help us create efficiency, and that could be for a smaller company. There could be one process which has huge amount of volume, and we can look at an automation opportunity there also. I think another question which I can see is, are there any what could be is it very expensive? I would say that it depends. How do we want to approach this journey. So a typical proof of concept could be between $3,000 to $6,000, kind of a small opportunity. And obviously, you will only do automation beyond that by looking at a cost per unit of that process or per unit of that transaction value. And at a scale, if it's giving you an ROI, then only you end up potentially doing it. So it doesn't matter whether you're a small or a large company. For both of you, uh, it's deriving value. Why not? So these were the only two questions. Uh, so should I? I'll wait for another 30 seconds. If anybody has a question, please put it on the question board. Otherwise, we'll end the presentation. And the team will ensure that you will get a copy of this presentation uh, at the email ID which you have used to register or attend the seminar. I don't see any other questions coming through. So I would like to thank you all from the side of the Excella team for finding time to attend this seminar. And I hope this was valuable for you. Thank you. And please stay safe and stay home.